Good afternoon to you. So, we will continue with the General Studies cum Constitution. Yesterday we have seen the Monetary Policy Committee, nomination of Government of India. 3 dignitaries have been nominated, and you have seen the background of MPC, what is the powers of the MPC, what for it was given the statutory backing, etc. Today we will take another topic, namely Comptroller and Auditor General and Indian audit system. Comptroller and Auditor General and Indian audit system. Why this topic is important? Because in the CAG report on Rafale aircraft deal, the pricing of Rafale fighter jet deal has been redacted in the CAG report, apparently on the request of the Ministry of Defence, of course keeping in view the security concerns. This issue was in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court upheld the stand of the government. Now, what do you mean by redaction? It is nothing but the adoption by removing certain sensitive information from a document prior to publication. In other words, full commercial value of the aircrafts was withheld from public domain. That is how the topic CAG came up in the news. CAG means Comptroller and Auditor General. Don't think it is Controller and Auditor General. Why this he is called Comptroller and Auditor General? We will come in the due course of time. Constitution provides an independent, autonomous, constitutional office of CAG. So, remember, this is a constitutional, autonomous, independent authority. What are the article number? Article 148 to Article 151. In which part? Part 5, Union Executive. Chapter 5. This article 148 speaks about CAG. If you see the background of CAG, the CAG was evolved in British India with Lord Canning even before 1857 mutiny. If you see the history, for the first time in 1858, a separate department was set up under the Accountant General, who was made responsible for accounting and auditing all financial transactions of East India Company. After mutiny 1857, of course, the Crown took over the control and passed Government of India Act 1858. So, remember, this is the foundation of imperial audit. The first Auditor General was Sir Edward Drummond, who took charge in 1860. PT point of view, remember who is the first Auditor General? First Auditor General, Sir Edward Drummond. He took charge in 1860. The term CAG was first used in 1884. This is an offshoot of Montfort reforms of 1919. In 1919, Montfort reforms made the Auditor General independent of government, real Auditor General. He was made independent of government under Montfort reforms of 1919. Government of India Act 1935 equated him to that of a federal judge. Our constitution in 1950 designated the CAG and made him equal to the judge of Supreme Court. CAG is one of the four bulwarks of Indian democratic system. The other three being Supreme Court, Election Commission and UPSC. Remember, there are four bulwarks: CAG, Supreme Court, Election Commission and UPSC. Now let us see what Article 148 speaks about CAG. He is the watchdog of public finance. He is appointed by President of India. He is to take oath of office in the format given in third schedule, PT point of view. Remember, the oath of office in the format given in third schedule of the Constitution. Most importantly, remember, the format of oath of office of CAG as given in third schedule is the same as that of Judge of Supreme Court. Very important for the PT point of view. The oath of office prescribed for CAG and that prescribed for Judge of Supreme Court is same. Another point, PT point, even though we have a federal setup, our Constitution provides for a unitary audit by CAG, who conducts the audit of the accounts of both union and the states. See, in a federal setup, audit system should also be two. No, we have a common judiciary. Similarly, we have a common election commission. Similarly, we have a common audit system. Very important point you should note. It is a unitary feature of Federal Constitution of India. So, Indian Constitution is federal in structure but unitary in spirit. If there is a question, you should remember this point. Even though CAG is appointed by President, he can be removed by President only for proved misbehavior or incapacity after following the procedure stipulated for the removal of judges of Supreme Court and High Court. In other words, the doctrine of pleasure in Article 310 does not apply to CAG. Why? If you see Article 310, the first word itself subject to the provisions of the Constitution. So that subject to the provisions of the Constitution implies that Article 310 does not apply to CAG, who is governed by Article 148. Now, remember, he gets the salary equal to the Judge of Supreme Court. How much? 2.5 lakh per month. The salary and allowances and other service conditions of CAG cannot be varied to his disadvantage during the term of his office. The salary, allowances of CAG and other administrative expenses of office of CAG are charged, underline charged, PT point of view, charged, and is not subject to vote. Remember, most importantly, compare the Election Commission with the CAG. The salary and allowances of Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners are not charged. It is voted by the Parliament. On the other hand, the salary, allowances and administrative expenses of CAG are charged into the Consolidated Fund of India and is not subject to vote. Now, CAG will continue to hold the office for 6 years or 65 years of age, whichever is earlier. he can resign by writing to President. Remember, CAG shall not be eligible for further employment under the state after retirement. Even though this provision was more followed in breach than in adherence, how we will see in a due course of time. Technically, no minister can represent the CAG because CAG himself is the representative of Parliament and CAG audits on behalf of Parliament. Nevertheless, Minister of Finance has to take care of the Parliament questions relating to CAG because you cannot expect that CAG will come to the House and reply to the questions relating to CAG or his office. This point remember, we can say he cannot be represented by anybody in the Parliament, etc. But supposing having worked in Government of India, you might have observed who will answer the Parliament question relating to CAG? It is only the Minister for Finance. So for all parliamentary matters, Minister for Finance represents the CAG. To this extent, he is answerable. Now, Article 149 empowers the Parliament to prescribe the duties and powers of CAG in relation to the accounts of the Union and the states or any other authority for that matter. Accordingly, Parliament had enacted the CAG's duties, powers and conditions of service Act of 1971. Important note. Originally, remember, compilation of accounts of both the Union and the states was used to be done by CAG. As you know, accounting is an executive function, different from auditing. Handling of both accounting and auditing by the same institution, you will agree with me, involves conflict of interest, which is not desirable. Accordingly, CAG Duties and Powers and Conditions of Service Act 1971 was amended in 1976. When it was amended in 1976, what for? To relieve CAG of the responsibility of compilation of accounts of the ministries and departments of Government of India, and also allow him to devote exclusively to auditing of accounts. Nevertheless,